I know there's an event about to occur. And the event that's going to occur is I'm going to cut my arm off. If we remember, we've cut our arm off before using VLANs and VLAN trunking. Now I'm going to cut my arm off with an access control list. And what do I mean by that? Well, I'm about to deny SSH access into the router. So once I hit that, I no longer have SSH access. You can hear me typing, clicking, right? My SSH session has timed out. Why is that? Well, let's look at my access control list that I applied here. My first line allows me to get to the web server on 192.168.10.10. The second line allows me to ping it. And the third line says that I can get from 10.0.0.128 to the web server on port 22. So now here we have a putty fatal error, meaning that it says a network error, can't connect anymore. We're going to leave that be for the moment and do some experiments with other things. What we know happened right now is that I've cut my arm off to be able to SSH to the router. So I can't SSH to the router, but that might not be so bad right now. Let's go see what we can do. I'm going to close this putty window because it's dead. And if we go to the command prompt here and I try to send a ping message to 192.168.10.10, we should get a reply. So I cannot SSH to my router, but I can ping to 192.168.10.10, and I should be able to open up my web browser. And let's make a incognito window and go to 192.168.10.10. And I should be able to get the web server. So I can get to the web server, I can ping, but I can't SSH to my router. Why is that? Well, I do not have a line on F00 that says permit traffic from 10.0.0.16 to 10.0.0.1 on port 22. I do not have a line that permits that, so it hits that last line of my list, which is that deny IP any. So we can see from 10.0.0.16 that we can ping and reach the web server. Now let's see what we can do from that other device that's on the 10.0.0.128. That is my Linux workstation that we were using before. So now I'm back on my Linux workstation, and my Linux workstation has the IP address of CONFIG. There we go. It has the IP address here of 10.0.0.128. Now in my access control list that we set up, we said that 10.0.0.128 can SSH, but it cannot ping and it cannot access the web server. So if I try to ping 192.168.10.10 from this workstation, I'm getting that packet filtered, meaning that it's hitting that access control list and not being allowed through. If I cancel that and I open up my web browser and we open up a private window here to make sure that we have a clean web browser to start with, we do 192.168.10.10. You know, and the reason I use that clean web browser like that every time, either incognito in Chrome or this private window in Firefox, is because websites in web browsers tend to get cached on the workstation. So they stick around for a while. And sometimes if you don't use that incognito web page or that private web page, you'll just end up pulling the cached file of that web page from your computer, and it doesn't actually go out to the web server and get it and come back again. So when we use this private window, that's when we're able to get a brand new, fresh copy of the website when we browse to it. So here we're not able to get to the website. We're not able to ping. The other thing that we need to test is SSH. Well, what I can do on a Linux workstation is I can actually SSH right from the command line. So I say SSH to 192.168.10.10. When I do that, I should get a prompt here for a password. There it is. I type in my password, which is password. And now I am logged on to my web server. If I do ifconfig, we'll see that the IP address of this device is 192.168.10.10. So I can SSH to my web server. I cannot reach the website. I cannot ping it. So we can see that my access list is actually working right now to pass the traffic that I requested to pass and denying all the traffic that I told it to deny. Although we do have an issue here, and that issue is that I can no longer SSH to the router to make configuration changes. So what I want to do is go back to my device at 10.0.0.16. I'm going to hook up my rollover cable to the console port of the router so that we can get onto it and make the changes to our ACL to allow me to SSH from device 10.0.0.16. So let's go back to that workstation and connect up our router via the serial port.